Welcome to another weekly episode of Marked Out Radio. We are the premier podcast focused on the hobby of collecting autographs and photo ops from celebrities. We talk about autograph conventions, on-the-street encounters, and everything else about this hobby. I'm Sean.
And I'm Dana.
And this week, I didn't do anything this week, but you had a bunch of events, mostly this weekend, starting with a bunch of Mets.
Yeah, another event with Coach's Collectibles, and much like every event with Coach's Collectibles, it's smooth, it's organized, it starts mostly on time. I went down to Mulcahy's in Nassau County, Long Island. I was joined down there by the Little Rat, Zach Linder, and Vinny, and we were all there for the big signing with Gary Cohen, Keith Hernandez, and Ron Darling, the Mets broadcast team.
What kind of individual wants to meet the Mets broadcasting team?
Any individual that watches the Mets games. This is widely considered the greatest broadcasting ensemble in sports, I think, as far as the level of praise they get. Plus, I mean, I already had the players, but Keith and Ron are all-time great Mets, so I don't think it's that much of a sell.
No, I mean, those two, from the 80s, everyone knows them.
Yeah, but I mean, all went well. In trying to sort of tighten my belt a little bit with holidays coming up, I opted for a photo op only. So I was traveling light. The photos were good, as they always are. We had a little bit of amusement with Zach, who was very upset that Adam Grun took the photo in horizontal mode instead of vertical portrait mode.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I watched you posted a video with this interaction, and I watched it a few times trying to understand exactly what Zach was complaining about, and I still really don't follow what the complaint is. Why would one want a photo in portrait mode instead of in landscape mode when you have there's four people in the picture?
Well, that was my argument. To me, landscape mode with four people is that is the standard. I think Adam did exactly what you should do. That's how you sort of maximize the pixels, and you're not wasting space on floor and wall, that you're focusing on the actual subject. But Zach's argument is if it's in portrait mode, when you put it on Instagram, it looks better, which I guess he has a point there. If that's the aesthetic you're going for with your Instagram page, and that's the layout of your other stuff, I guess. I don't know. I, of course, poked and prodded him to go for a retake for the sake of content. I mean, how would you not try to get Zach to go for a retake?
Yeah, but it was pretty straightforward. It seemed there wasn't any fireworks.
No, because that's the way Coach's Collectibles is. They're pretty damn good when it comes to customer service. Someone else would have taken that request and probably, hemmed and hawed about, we can't do retakes, we got to keep it moving. And ultimately, they, even if you think Zach's request was a little nitpicky, they just said, sure, go for it. It took all of 15 seconds and, on to the next fan.
But you already had Keith and Ron, right?
Yeah, but I need the group op with Gary.
So what does the group op run you?
$100.
That's probably more than it's worth, but about what I expect it to be.
Listen, it sold out, and I don't think it was one of those like kayfabe sellouts. It was definitely a healthier and a longer photo op line than a lot of their events. So it worked out for them. I, as I said, had no autographs. Zach got his Seinfeld-themed Keith Hernandez alarm clock from the Cyclones game. He got that signed. That looked great. And Vinny completed his Gary, Keith, and Ron bobblehead set. And he luckily opted for Silver Deco Extra Fine. And we saw someone else posted their Ron Darling signed in regular fine silver. And it looked like a clumpy mess. So I guess if you're getting bobblehead signed, you need the Silver Deco that is extra fine.
Yeah, it's funny when I proposed many months ago doing that episode about markers, you mocked me, and as it turns out, there's still a lot of debate.
Did we ever do it?
We did, yeah. Oh my God,
Okay.
yes, we did.
But come on. 75 episodes. I can't keep track of all of them.
It wasn't that long ago. Anyway, I love talking markers, and in fact, I will say one of the most common things people email questions and DM questions about is markers. It's actually the funniest thing that of all the things that we get asked to opine about privately, marker choice is one of the most common.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what that says about us as humans. If like if people just know you can come to us with like marker questions.
When in
But
doubt, when in
yeah.
doubt about your markers, I'm the one to ask.
And then while there, my last note on this event, while there, we got to talk with Keith Blacknick, who runs the Queens Baseball Convention, which is the premier Mets convention, period. And he's running next week, and he collaborates now with Coaches Collectibles. And if you are a Mets fan, that sounds like a hell of a way to spend an afternoon.
So then, not to be outdone by the Mets, you then, I guess, jumped on the train and headed to the city?
Yeah, and for a second, Vinny and Zach were like, "Oh, just hang out with us," and then like just basically, Vinny wanted to do De La Soul. Zach did not. So Vinny's car was parked somewhere in Brooklyn, and Vinny's like, "Just ride with us, and we'll drive in together, and save a train ride." And I thought about it. I'm like, $10 is $10. That's a decent savings right there. Maybe I'll do it. And I stood around, I recorded that content with the retake and all that stuff. And by the time it was getting later and later, and the line, because it was crowded, wasn't moving that quick. And I got paranoid, and I said, all right, I'm catching the next train. And I jetted out of Mulcahy's. I grabbed my city bag in the car. I, of course, needed my iPad to watch movies on the train, not realizing how short the train ride really is from Wantagh. And I actually never touched my iPad. I was just busy formatting TikTok videos. So my city bag was kind of useless, but whatever. And I headed into the city. The destination for this was the Mass Appeal Records pop-up shop. Mass Appeal Records, if you are not aware, is the record label that is owned and operated by Nas. And the basic focus of this record label is giving legends and icons of hip-hop, such as De La Soul, who I went to meet yesterday, Big L, Slick Rick, Raekwon, Ghostface, etc. All these artists that are not really in like traditional record label plans, because they're, again, as I said, I think I said this last week, the rappers were not viewed like rock stars, where like the Rolling Stones at 80 years old could still go out and make money. It was viewed, I think, that rappers, when they got too old, were just done. And now you have a lot of the older guys putting out projects. So there was a pop-up shop in, I guess, basically Soho. It was right off Canal Street. And I expected a little hole in the wall with like vinyl records and T-shirts and all that type of stuff. But what was actually in there was a cool little like makeshift, little like museum photo booth type setup, where each artist that had an album release this year had their own little like I don't know even know what to call it. It was like a diorama. It was like a little like setup where they had a set. And I honestly took a lot more time than I ever would have imagined, like going through there. I ended up meeting some guy from Washington, D.C., and we like took each other's photos in like the different, I guess diorama feels like the best way to describe what it was. And it was also a nice way to not be in the cold. And then the meet and greet was scheduled to start at 3:00, and this was around like 2:10. And they basically said if anyone was inside for the meet and greet, they would have to go outside and form a line.
Okay, so I mean, how did they draw? What was it like?
I wasn't sure how they would draw. That's why I gave the option of going with Vinny a little more thought. I'm like, this might not draw much, and I'm going to just freeze my ass off for nothing. But I'm in this hobby, I typically run paranoid, and I'll go the extra mile just to sort of satisfy that fear of something bad happening. So when I got out there, I saw my buddy Dave. He was on the line. One of the guys I befriended inside he hopped on the line right after Dave. I just hopped on with them. At that point, it was probably like 15 deep. It took me, I was there before most of those people. I was just dawdling inside looking at the Slick Rick exhibit. So I got out there, I got on the line. Now, how it worked was there was a little bit of confusion. At first, the woman told me that you could get a photo without buying anything. But I am deranged, and I spent $100 on the signed vinyl, which was exclusive to the pop-up shop, because I wanted it. Then it turned out you did need to purchase something. And on the line, they caused a little bit of a ruckus because the security guy informed the crowd that you needed the $100 signed vinyl. And the $40 unsigned vinyl would not be enough to get you access to the meet and greet. That turned out to be false. $40 unsigned vinyl would get you through the doors. But what was strange about the whole thing, if you bought the unsigned vinyl, they would not sign it, which, I mean, I appreciate because I bought the $100 one. I'd be pissed off if people were getting them signed for free. But they were holding markers in their hands without caps, yet they weren't supposedly signing autographs. So it was a little bit of a mixed message as far as that, but it really, everything else was great. They showed up 10 minutes late, which is 20 minutes early on rapper time. They engaged with the crowd probably a little bit too much. I got in, they noticed my Meta's recording and interacted with it in a positive way. It wasn't like a Rainn Wilson kind of way that was hostile sort of. This was just lighthearted. They seemed to love all the attention. And after that, I had to go find Greg, who was lurking outside in his parked car, waiting for his Goldberg cards from Big Event.
So all in all, you opted for the $100 signed vinyl. And is that for the collection? Is that for sale? What is that?
That is for the collection. I thought about purchasing multiple because this is the blue vinyl that this is only at this location. And I think any generic one sold out on the Mass Appeal website in minutes. But $100, much like the Annie Lennox book, when you are talking $100 buy-in, to me, I'm always nervous. Plus, mailing vinyls are a pain. I don't have appropriate boxing really for a vinyl. I have one or two somewhere on a shelf, but I try to minimize how many vinyls I sell.
So good turnout, good event, worth going to.
Yeah, the only issue was the end of the line ended up getting cut off. Vinny showed up around 3:30, and apparently him and 100 behind him were shut out. And that was poor planning on their part. They really should have had sort of a count in their head of what they could accommodate. And they should have told, the line is capped here. You had people freezing in the sub-freezing temperatures for hours. And there's a better way to handle that. They didn't bring the people that were cut off in to buy the album ahead of time, like they did with the front of the line. That makes me think they always kind of had doubts that they'd get these people through. But, I mean, transparency is key when it comes to this. And they really should have given people that heads up, hey, you're in an overflow line. We don't know if you're going to make it in if you still want to try. That's a better way of handling it. But it's a pop-up shop with people that have probably never run one of these before. So you kind of have to expect that. That's why I always show up early for this type of stuff. But yeah, all in all, it was a great experience on the front end of the line. Back end of the line, probably not.
Fairly typical for the signing experience. So we had some other reports come in this week, a bunch of reports. There was I don't know any of these people, but I imagine they're somewhat famous. Jacob, he met Mark Andrews, Danny Luna, Young Gravy, and Fancy Ryan Clancy. Young Gravy, he put the picture. That was the guy in the pajamas, right?
Yeah. Listen, Mark Andrews worked NXT UK. Mark Andrews was actually a bit of a prospect at a time. Fancy Ryan Clancy is one of those guys that I'm not ready to really put my endorsement behind yet, but he's definitely on my list of consideration. He's a pretty solid talent, I think. Danny Luna and Young Gravy, I don't know. But I mean, I will look them up because I like to be aware of all the up-and-coming wrestling talent.
No, he's not a wrestling. He's a rapper.
Oh, these are rappers? so there's rappers and wrestlers mixed in here. Okay,
Yeah.
I got
How did you not? They were at a concert venue and he was wearing pajamas. It wasn't a wrestling thing.
it. Young Gravy. Oh, geez. All right, my bad. I never
You're
heard
not
of Young Gravy.
you're not familiar with the discography of Young Gravy?
Listen, my rappers are a little grayer. Are not many youngs in the rappers I listen to, and they certainly don't wear pajamas at the concert venues.
He's been around for a minute, to be honest, since 2016. But
I'll have to look him up.
But I digress. Thank you for your report. Ari met Emil Heineman from the Islanders. That was also a Coach's Collectibles thing, I believe.
Yeah, Coach's Collectibles hits baseball, hockey, and a little bit of basketball. Dom is definitely carving out a reputation as far as having just super, super cool and well-run public events.
Okay. Of course, Steel City Con was this weekend. We did not attend. We held strong, and it was actually interesting watching in the 11th hour all the cancellations and chaos that definitely made this a less attractive lineup than it originally appeared to be.
Yeah, that's a cautionary tale for these long distance cons. I mean, we could have easily booked all the accommodations and bought all the stuff. And I mean, Lori, I'm not a Full House fanatic. I was when I was 8. So Lori Loughlin was not going to really power any trip like this for me. But losing her, I'm sure even John was a little disappointed. He had plenty of shows he could have done just alongside Dave, and he hasn't. It was Lori doing this con that got him back out on the scene, and then Lori bailed because of Hallmark filming commitments or something. So definitely a little bit less cool. Maybe I'm just saying that to tamp down any FOMO that may be residually there. But Rockin' with Dan was in the building, freezing his balls off. He's used to the Orlando weather, and then he's up in Monroeville, Pennsylvania, and the entire Northeast right now is sort of in a freeze. And I think it appeared like his main draw there was John Stamos, who was sort of Jesse Kostopoulos suited, which was pretty cool. He had the leather jacket on. He really doesn't age, which is a little concerning, because I mean, it's not like other people try not to age. Like I think that's what Linda Blair was going for with the King Louis facial reconstruction. But I mean, she damn sure looks like she aged. John Stamos looks pretty natural. He just still looks like John Stamos. And Dan got a bunch of stock done that I'm sure is going to be on his whatnot. I would think as soon as this week. So if you're in the market for John Stamos, check it out.
There you go. There was a lot of interesting dialogue about Robert Englund. I mean, to be fair, Robert Englund has this same dialogue every single time he appears. No one was able to get an autograph with Robert Englund who didn't purchase the VIP. So they were allowing people to stand in line for hours and hours and hours to only have no chance of meeting him, which naturally sparked some outrage. And it's always kind of the same group that's outraged, is the people who really don't know how the cons work. They're the con newbies, and you'd think that these companies would be sort of more sensitive to making their attendees aware of how things work, but they don't seem to care. And so lots of people are mad about that. And something else you noticed is that Robert Englund is now sitting down for photo ops, and the truth of it is he's 78 years old, and this was something that was eventually going to happen.
Yeah. He was sitting down, like he had the chair kind of turned in like a Fonzie kind of way, where he was sitting like chest against the back of the chair, which I guess gave him a little bit of an air of like, youthfulness and whatever. But it wasn't quite the same usual like Freddy like draped around you with the claw, and it's definitely a reminder of time marches on, even for the horror icons of the world. And it kind of lit a little bit of a fire under me. I texted you when I texted you that picture. I'm like, I think I need to get a box out to him sometime this winter. Because, I mean, you kind of see a guy like Freddy, much like a guy like Hulk, and you feel like you got like decades more with them, but you never know. So I think the time is now for me to invest a couple hundred and get some of my key stuff done.
Yeah, I did mine a year or two ago. I'm glad I did. And I wouldn't sleep on Robert Englund.
No. And just the one point I overlooked from before, there was some issues. Rocking with Dan reported that Hank Azaria, I think he was refused directly for signing an Apu item, and that's something that I think I discussed when we did the charity signing on Long Island. I'm assuming this Apu thing is because the Apu character is kind of, I guess, offensive by PC culture standards. Correct?
You don't know the whole. Hank Azaria took a savage beating online a few years ago over this.
I wasn't aware of the savage beating, but I do know that there's certain characters. So how did he take it?
Well, he look, it's idiotic. I mean, he was doing a job that he was paid for, but whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
But he was dragged pretty mercilessly for a hot second over playing that role. And then so he had at some point vowed to never play it again. And then what they did was they just I believe they pulled the character entirely from The Simpsons. And so it's not even on the show anymore. So I imagine he does not want to get caught engaging with that material for fear of getting, attacked again.
I wasn't aware it was that defined. I thought it was just sort of his own little like hang-ups.
It wasn't at all. It didn't come from him at all. This was externally motivated.
So I guess it would be less offensive to hire an Indian actor to put on the stereotypical accent. I guess that would make it okay, perhaps. That's wild. But anyway, so I mean, Hank Azaria, con goer beware if you want something Apu related signed. It's probably not going to happen.
Yeah. What else do we have on here? Austin, he posted his report. He got the Full House duo. That was the first Full House duo you sent me. Looked great, and he also got Heather Langenkamp. Dave also made a report. He was I don't know how a person does this, but he did Steel City and GalaxyCon Columbus in the same day. He did one and the other. But he tried to get Shia LaBeouf nice and early, but the best laid plans they never worked out because a lot of these people didn't come to their table until later on.
Yeah, and that's the overwhelming things that we heard from the show. Like on Saturday, Linda Hamilton was not at her table until like 1 or 2 p.m. People got on the line at 9 a.m. like you would have to do to really have a shot on these more desirable names, and you're wasting half of your day, more than half of your day. You're just standing there. These I know Greg 2600 told me he had several items with different people for consignment, and all he kept hearing back from the people that were doing the consignments was that I don't think we're getting your item done, because a lot of these lines were not moving. Apparently it was a zoo, and it's ridiculous. You have these, I understand why these conventions like the panels, because not everyone wants the autographs and the photo ops. Although I feel like the list of people that don't and attend these conventions gets smaller by the day. But I mean, between panels and breaks and all this other stuff, a lot of these people are barely at the table, and you have hundreds of people waiting online. It's a terrible, terrible combination, and honestly, it makes me scared to go to cons and buy autograph tickets.
The way that Monster Mania does the panels is the best. All the panels are the same day, they're in a row, and they begin in the evening. That's it.
It should not take away from the time at the table. It just shouldn't. But for a lot of these shows, they do what they do. They already have your attendance. They have your admission fee. And I guess if you spend 6 hours in line waiting for someone, they don't care.
Not at all. And okay, so that's it for Steel City. Do you regret not going?
Definitely not, because De La Soul. I would have missed De La Soul. That would have been big. I would have been. I may have actually been wanting to cancel a trip over that. So I'm glad, between Gary, Keith, and Ron and De La, I'm glad I didn't go. Also,
I couldn't name a single De La Soul song. Not a single one.
You're uncultured.
Gun to my head, I'm dead. No idea.
That's not a song. Sorry. No, but you are definitely uncultured on your 80s and early 90s hip hop. In any case, I don't regret it. And the other thing that makes me feel better, which is completely deranged, but John Stamos was more Beach Boy suited, it looked like, on Saturday. He was, he had some colorful shirt on. He looked better suited on Friday. And we probably, although we were kind of considering Friday this time around. So had I gotten him on Saturday, I would have been much less. I would have still been pissed because I would have wanted him leather jacket suited to look more like Jesse.
Do you think normal people who don't know like the marked out lingo from 15 years ago understand what the hell you're talking about when you say suited?
Well, I'm not sure how many normal people are listening to us. Period.
No, yeah, but most of the people who are listening to us they don't know all this. I mean, they can surmise. Like, I wonder if they think you just have a really weird way of speaking, or if they understand that this is like where this comes from.
Honestly, they probably think I'm a weirdo because I think we planned on getting class to discuss the language, and honestly, we just got lost in a garbage bag of Easter candy. So we never really got that all explained. So yeah, they think I'm weird. But
so that framing, saying suited, is directly out of Steve. He came up with that on the board years ago as a way of justifying getting multiple photos with the same person based on their different outfits. But because he can't just say outfits. Instead, they have to use this ridiculous kind of stilted language. So it's so and so suited, or Beach Boy suited, or whatever. Okay, that's how he used to post on the board, and so that type of language has lived on.
It has. Long live the language.
So there's a couple of notes on these tours. We did some digging into Napoleon Dynamite tour. There's some additional information coming out on Peter Billingsley. That tour he's been doing for Christmas Story is still going. I love that it was going to be this one tour that's been going on now for how many years, right?
It's so corny.
But honestly, if you're at this point, the Peter Billingsley tour is such a kick in the nuts that it would be a heartbreaker to have paid money to go. So, the whole point was he was going to do that one con appearance at Chiller and then use that to launch into this tour where you could do meet and greets on his tour, where you'd be watching Christmas Story and whatever, which is fine. I mean, A Christmas Story is a pretty popular holiday movie. It's part of a lot of people's family traditions. Wonderful. However, they advertised the tour as you getting an autograph and a photo with Peter Billingsley, and now the autograph that you get is this very bad, poorly made custom poster that he insists on personalizing. But it's no longer, when you did it, you got like a reproduction of a Christmas Story poster, right?
Yeah, I had a 12 by 18 with me just because at that point that's the size I was rolling with. They told me I couldn't get that signed, but they handed me essentially the exact same reproduction, just 11 by 17. So I really had no real hurt. It's what I expected. But now, like you said, it's this poster from the event with a 51-year-old Peter Billingsley's face smiling back at you. And as you said, the nice coup de grace to the testicles is that if you found some lunatic out there that would pay even half of your ticket price to own that lovely print, he personalizes it by force. So you're stuck with it. And you're not going to add I could add the other characters to my print on this one. Like you're not going to do that. So it really sucks. And I know I overpaid for it last year, but I'm glad I did it when I did, because now I wouldn't really recommend anyone going to this if they have any other option.
Yeah, it's actually strange to see someone who is so concerned with protecting the secondary market value of their autograph. This is a really weird moment in the hobby where you have these people who, Peter Billingsley really has never done anything else of note in show business. And he's like he did nothing con-wise forever. And now he all of a sudden is hyper fixated on his secondary market value. And as a result, you really can't get a nice piece with Peter Billingsley on it. You had to have done it at Chiller. That was the move. So
yeah, I'm still slightly irked about my personalization, but like seeing the way this is going now, that's kind of small potatoes.
And then we had been kicking around the idea of doing the Napoleon Dynamite tour in Patchogue, but so you did a little bit of just kind of trolling the waters to see what how these typically go. And what we learned is they don't typically go any kind of way. In some cities they do autographs, in some cities they don't. In some cities they sign. There's no rhyme or reason to any of it. So now it's like you're gonna buy this meet and greet and you don't know what you're getting. You literally don't even know what you're getting for your money.
Yeah, I think this pushes me out of it. I have Napoleon. I don't need the other two that desperately. And I don't want to spend whatever it's going to be like. It's like close to $200. It's like in that range for a group op and no autograph. I know I'm going to walk out of that event with that same like pit in my stomach of just regret and shame that I did coming out of the Sopranos event. This is for me as insane as I am. I feel like this would be growth if I'm able to sort of see something that's going to not bring me any sort of joy or fulfillment and avoiding it. So that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to avoid this. Are you out?
I'm probably out as well. Truthfully, I was never. I mean, I was entertaining the thing in theory, but in practice, it's not worth it. And I have to sit there and sleep through another movie for what? So then you had someone posted a story to marked out with with regard to filters on photo ops. And people are making jokes on Remini. I know that that Remini is kind of an interesting topic. We haven't really touched on it at all. But I guess Abby Lee Miller, the Dance Moms lady, she posted a photo op with what's his face, Neil Patrick Harris. And it was a weird, like AI, adulterated version of his face.
Yeah, that was me who posted that story because I don't want to go too deep into Remini because I really think that's an episode in and of itself. That type of growing thing with AI used to clean up photos. And listen, I run a lot of photos through Remini, but there's settings you should turn off. That it sharpens them in a natural way. And then there's settings that a lot of people leave on that makes you look like you're 15 years younger, and it's a little crazy. And I was cracking up because there was some people commenting on this post I made who were super guilty of it themselves. And I wasn't going to call anyone out because, I mean, this isn't old marked out. It's all love and conversation here. I'm not trying to make anyone feel bad, but it's definitely a thing that's not just Abby Lee Miller doing it. And it's funny for a celebrity. I've never seen a celebrity like react to what the fans typically do to their photos. And it was just funny to see. And I didn't even know who the hell Abby Lee Miller was. Apparently, I know the show Dance Moms. I'm shocked she didn't have the cachet to get her ass backstage. She was on the rail next to the schlubs like us, going for a selfie, like outside the Broadway show. Like I've seen them let all sorts of random semi-valid people backstage at plays in my life. I'm shocked. Maybe she doesn't know that you try to do that. I don't know, but that was kind of weird to see someone who's valid themselves on the rail getting a photo op outside.
There you go. You had sent me this. I know we have slightly different takes on it, but there's a lot. Radio Man, the infamous Radio Man in New York City. His social media looks like it's being handled by a professional firm now. They're following him around. They're doing documentary-style vignettes. There was a video that was posted of Radio Man getting autographs from John Goodman. This is kind of an interesting thing for the hobby because Radio Man, he represents sort of this strange side of the hobby. He looks, if you've never seen Radio Man, he looks like a vagabond. There's something. I'm being kind. I think there's definitely something. There's some kind of psychiatric imbalance there. There's something not right with Radio Man. But he's sort of this beloved figure among the celebrities themselves, and it does show an interesting. I guess the one interesting thing this new social media presence and these videos show is that stalking and the kind of behavior that the Radio Man engages in is unquestionably stalking, is apparently permissible under some circumstances and not permissible under other circumstances.
Yeah, they had well, first of all, I don't know if it's being run by a professional firm. I believe the gentleman that you see in his videos is a grapher himself. That is just he's one of the more normal ones, I guess. And I believe he is spearheading this entire sort of monetization of radio's day-to-day life, which honestly is a great idea. I agree with you as far as the stalking is permissible sometimes. There was a video they got Melissa McCarthy to do for the page, and she's like gushing about, oh my God, Radio Man, everywhere you are, he shows up in different cities, different states. He knows what you're doing, and he's there. He's so in tune with everything we do. And it's like, if someone else did that, if we had class, I don't think Macho Man Randy Savage would have been gushing about Class 316 that way. Like, oh, he knew when I was going to be out on my front lawn. Like that, in most cases, it's a very, very, very different reaction. I think what it comes down to is radio was accepted early on and put into movies. And I guess much like anything else, being put into movies, he is quote unquote behind the velvet rope. He's behind the curtain, if you will. And he's not a fan. He's not a stalker. He's a weird, smelly peer that rides around on a bike with a radio around his neck. And he is to be looked out for. And Geo has certain people that obviously do the same thing for him. Hugh Jackman, among others. But radio seems a little bit more beloved, I think because largely it's what I said, that he's valid in a sense, and they sort of accept him.
I don't know. I have a little bit simpler take. I think it's because his very obvious disabilities make people sort of unwilling to challenge the status quo. Also, inertia is a very powerful thing, and so once he's accepted and sort of he's kind of an inside joke, I think, to these people. So once he's accepted among a certain subset, then you would be strange for not following the herd. And so I think a lot of that is part of the radio mythology.
That's absolutely fair. Just a follow-up that I just thought of that I think is also a real thing. He's also a known he's a known source, basically. You know Radio Man, or at least you hope Radio Man's not going to like bite your ear off or, throw a cup of piss at you, which I think I've actually heard of him doing to fans. But he's not going to just attack a celebrity. He's not going to grab them or grope them or do anything that's like inappropriate. So I guess you're not really afraid of Radio Man, like you might be of Vagabond number 4 that you've never seen before.
For sure. And those things are definitely produced. I mean, you look at those videos, there's background music, they're recorded in 24 frames per second. It's definitely intended to be to appear professional quality,
Oh, absolutely. And you and I had a little different. You said you felt it was a little. You didn't love the tone of the videos.
No, it was all fake. It was just contrived, awful. It's intended to be like endearingly funny. I have no interest in any of that. I think they're awful. Because they're fake. And you're not going to get any. Like, what makes Radio Man interesting is the reality of what his life is, not the fiction that's presented on the this where they're going to pretend that he's human and he lives a human existence, and he doesn't. He lives a subterranean existence. That's interesting. So I don't like fake stuff like that.
I hear you. I think separating Radio Man from the shtick is a little. I think with his mental illness, I don't really know if you can separate him from the shtick. But I know what you're saying. You could go a little more uncut and sort of, where does he go at night? Where does he sleep? Like that would be interesting to me. Does he have? I mean, I personally am of the belief he has a lot more money and belongings than anyone believes. And I think he actually does live more of a normal existence than people give him credit for. But whenever you're near Radio Man, he doesn't smell that bad. He's not showering in a sink at Wendy's like Class does. he seems a little fresher than that.
I don't know. I was watching the video. He has no teeth. I mean, I don't know. There's definitely, because a lot of people hint that he's being sort of taken advantage of by other people, right? That he's really not making any money off of the autograph sales because other people are basically paying him to get graphs for them, right? Isn't that's the scuttlebutt about Radio Man? So
yeah.
I suspect there's going to be, he's just another case of, elder abuse or some other, disabled person who's being taken advantage of and abused. And, I don't know. I have very little patience for shtick in general. And the videos just look like shtick to me. I want to see where he sleeps at night. Otherwise, I don't care. That's it.
Very fair.
I want to see what his family, who his family members are.
Yeah, I hear that. The Facebook group continues to be a force. Well, let's just say for the Napoleon Dynamite thing, that actually was a bit eye-opening for me. I know how big it's becoming, but I mean, I made a simple question of, has anyone done this? And we got like 30 people that did it all around the country. Like I as big as I know it's getting, I didn't know it was like that, where you get that kind of reach from all over the place. And on the flip side of that, with all the good activity, you get grifters and losers. And I had one guy, Joel Terry, if that's even actually who he is, or if that's a fake Jerome Carter-esque profile of someone else, I don't know. But he sort of has a reputation in this hobby, in this business, of not paying his debts from virtuals and just overall being a bum. And he would DM me from time to time about, oh, my father's dead. My father was hit by a bus. My father stubbed his toe my father stepped on Legos, like all these different maladies where he would need money. And do you want to buy this? Do you want to buy that? And I would always ignore him. And someone told me and informed me that he apparently messaged them saying he was a friend of mine, and then going into the diatribe of all that's wrong with his life, and that he needed to sell X, Y, and Z. So I immediately called him out and blocked him from the group and personally. And apparently he was messaging a lot of other people in the group, just not you.
No, I am ignored. I am pathologically ignored by these types. So which on one level makes me sad because I'm not able to join in on the festivities, but also it's nice to not have to, exist in their world.
Yes. And then you caught something now that was a little funny.
So yeah, I mean, just so all posts need to be approved, and so when we get the notifications, we'll take a look. And I get this, I see this post that comes up that says it's basically a guy who is, and he posted like multiple sentences about please don't make fun of me and all this, but he was asking if it would be possible for someone who was out in public to and who might happen to see Sydney Sweeney to ask her to make a video for him. And I just quickly made a comment like there's a 0% chance of this happening. But and then I guess he promptly deleted his post because it disappeared. I don't know. There's, as the group gets larger, we're going to start having more of these types come in who don't really understand how things work, who think that it's possible to get Sydney Sweeney to stop and give a little tribute video on the street. I imagine even like someone as nice as Matt Damon would probably balk at giving some kind of video on the street.
Yeah, and I got Sydney Sweeney in a super, super, super low-key way, and there's nothing, even in a low-key way, there's nothing low-key about Sydney Sweeney. She moves with a team of security, and you're lucky if she touches a pen. You're lucky if the black shades aren't covering her eyes. You're not getting anything out of her besides a selfie and on a good day. You're not getting there's no videos being had. This is not Tammy Sitch from 2007. This is a rising A-lister, maybe, in spite of her limited acting skills.
Speaking of the group, we had Wicked Ink Wednesday and Photo With Friday. These are continuing to grow. You'd think people would run out of stuff, but that's the opposite's happening, and we see new names and new faces every single time showing off. So for Wicked Lake Wednesday, 16 times Mark Miller continues to just dust off some insane stuff, and he posted a floor pass from the 1976 Republican National Convention that was signed by Ronald and Nancy Reagan, as well as Ronald Reagan's running mate, Richard Schweiker. So, I mean, you're talking something like that. I mean, something like that would probably be valued into the thousands. There aren't many of them out there. But it also kind of speaks to being able to go to the national convention and actually have access to the candidates, which just, it hasn't been true in quite some time. It shows a little bit of a window in time to how things were versus how they are.
Yeah, and just to touch on this really, really briefly, I would be fascinated to see, because like some of us, myself included, I'm looking right now at a Leonardo Ninja Turtle figure signed. That's a little different from the type of stuff that Mark is posting. Mark has genuine, like, historic, like, artifacts. I wonder if he has any of this stuff insured. Like, is he, what's the best way to sort of protect and preserve and enhance the value of this? I mean, he's going to be leaving his family some actual like real treasures that maybe someone in his family shares the love he has, maybe they don't, but I mean, this is stuff that could be sold for several thousand a piece.
Yeah, it's a fair question. Andrew, he posted a Beer League print signed by Artie Lang and Ralph Macchio. I actually have one. I believe I have an original poster of from Beer League that I got done by Macchio, and that I got Artie on at a book signing a million years ago. I was thinking about this when I saw the reason why I put this on Wicked Ink. When I saw it, I'm like, I have a Beer League poster, and I haven't seen that damn Beer League poster in probably 15 years. So I need to dig it out and see what it looks like. But I do have one.
I think I saw Beer League in theaters.
That's impossible. It was in theaters for like 18 seconds. I think it lasted one weekend in the theater. What would possibly make you see that in the theater?
Well, I mean, at that point in my life, I would see a movie every single week without fail.
What year did that come out? 2006, 2007, 2008?
I thought it was during my high. It was like 2004. It was like during my high school run. 2006.
Yeah.
Or maybe I didn't see it in theaters. To 2006, I wasn't going to the movies very much. All right, I take it back. But I did see it somewhere. It was a fun watch, I remember.
Oh, I mean, I remember when Artie was promoting it on Stern every freaking day, that I was dying to see it. And it was horrible. Horrible movie. But,
as you would expect, though.
That was when they were... who the hell wrote that movie? Because Artie would always talk about the guy who wrote it was buddies with Ralph Macchio. I can't remember his name. A comic, but anyway. And then Tim, he posted a Just Say Ozzy vinyl signed by Ozzy, Zakk Wylde, and Geezer Butler. A pretty amazing historical piece. Really sick.
Yeah, that's not an Ozzy guy beyond the couple of songs, but I mean, Ozzy is on, a whole nother level of music, and that is insane.
What else do we have on here? Photo with Friday. I mean, the big photo from this week, it's almost like one stands above everything else, was the Matt Bach thing.
Yeah, Matt, it's funny, Matt texted me that night. He was messaging me about Macaulay Culkin. Like, he's like, how early does he get to the venue? Is he did he do an intro last year, or did he just show up for the post show? And in my head, I'm like, all right, Matt's a seasoned guy as far as getting these impossible stuff, getting this stuff done. But I'm like, does he really think he's getting Macaulay Culkin walking into the venue? And he didn't. He had something set up where apparently his friends of his are the people that designed the Word Life, John Cena, Brass Knuckles. And he, in conjunction with them, designed Culk Life. I think that's what it said. But like these custom like Home Alone
Mac
Life. I was going off Mac's Instagram handle. But Mac Life, the Home Alone themed Brass Knuckles, which honestly is a perfect storm for him because Culkin loves wrestling and I guess Culkin loves Home Alone because it made him very rich. So you're sort of hitting all of his passions, and they welcomed and invited the three of them backstage to, I guess, be presented with these knucks. And then he took pictures with them, took pictures with the knuckles that they could, I guess, use for advertising and whatnot. Insane, very cool. Culkin obviously is not really doing any meet and greets this time around, but it goes to show with a little ingenuity, a little creativity, and a little chutzpah that perhaps you can make something happen.
It's true. You can't get a yes if you don't ask.
That is true.
Oh, by the way, the writer of Beer League was Frank Sebastiano, who wrote Dirty Work. So that's how that was. I couldn't remember the name, but I know Artie was talking about it every day on Stern back in the day. What else we got? Jonathan Benjamin. He actually did that Ben Stiller event at Stu Leonard's that I kicked around possibly doing, but it was during the workday, so it made it impossible. And he had that great shot with Ben Stiller. And then the Catman has his shot with the Sesame Street Muppets at Sirius.
That's a classic. That's a classic from the old marked out days. And the Ben Stiller thing, it's this trend of these like Wednesdays at 11 a.m. type deals. If I didn't already have a selfie with Ben, I would have taken off for that. But I'm a little annoyed. It looked like he was doing merch. So I could have gotten I could have gotten something done and a better op. But taking a day off or something like that is always not super appealing.
No. So if you're shopping for autographs, check out www.markedoutcollectibles.com or our eBay store at Marked Out Collectibles. To contact us for any reason, please email markedoutcollectibles@gmail.com or join the Marked Out autograph collecting community on Facebook. All links are in the show notes on Facebook and Substack. If you want your event, product, or brand advertised on episodes of Marked Out Radio, please reach out to us today at markedoutcollectibles@gmail.com. Also, please subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts and leave a rating and or review. You can leave a rating or review on Apple Podcasts. You can leave a rating on Spotify. You can leave a thumbs up or thumbs down on YouTube or a comment. It was really cool seeing Marked Out on lots of Spotify raps this year. It's always fun to see, that people are putting in the hours on with Marked Out Radio.
Yeah, we beat Joe Rogan on a couple of those.
That's pretty funny. We're also Marked Out Collectibles is running a special sale on autographed Harry Potter Funko Pops signed by Daniel Radcliffe. $120 shipped. You got to email or DM to buy. So let's talk. There's a couple of events coming up before we get to our listener questions. Big Event has started adding guests. They added Soraya again. They added Booker T. And I guess the big name for this event is Don Morocco only. And this is really the significance here is that the odds of him making it out to the East Coast again are low.
Yeah, I have a handful of things. I've gotten Don before, but I have a couple of things. You could bet your ass I'm going to get them done because we're not seeing him again. This is not shtick. This is not Carney. This is a dude that's, I imagine, financially comfortable enough, has back problems, and lives out in Hawaii. So if you need him, get him.
What else we got? This Tuesday, the 9th, Jim Belushi. Speaking of afternoon events, Jim Belushi is doing a dispensary meet and greet in New Jersey. It's like Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. And obviously, neither of us can do that. But if you need Jim Belushi, look him up. It's a pretty cool event on December 21st, Sunday. DMC from Run DMC is doing an event at Looney Tunes in West Babylon. Looks to be a great deal. You buy his book, and he'll sign the book for you. He'll sign an extra, do a photo op. I think if you're one of the first 100 people, they'll give you a bag of cookies. It's a lot of stuff for DMC.
I'm in. I already bought it last night.
Did they tell you if you're one of the first 100? I
imagine it's first 100 that show up to the store.
That's not going to happen. And then finally, interestingly, Bryan Cranston is doing this kind of meet and greet discussion thing in England. It's in March, the early March. The interesting story is that the meet and greet price is $500, 379 British pounds, which is roughly $500 US. I think that's for Bryan Cranston kind of low.
I guess it's low. I kind of feel like it's right where it should be because keep in mind he's not like an Arnold type of name. he's iconic for sure, a television icon, perhaps the
I
star
would
of the
say quite
greatest
possibly
show of all time.
the biggest TV name ever,
But I
or
mean,
close to it.
essentially, you're getting a photo op. You're getting a personalized autograph. People were sort of discussing whether it would be personal items, but I could almost certainly guarantee you it won't be. It would. My hunch is that promotional shot you see going around that says "An Evening with Bryan Cranston." That is likely printed, and that is
I,
what you
I
get.
I don't know. I think you're overly analyzing that it's a dedicated auto. They use the term dedicated autograph. That one could very well read that to mean he'll personalize if asked. I think there's a lot being read into this that with no basis for doing so.
Well, the
Um,
basis is that he's had a history for years and years and years of being hyper anal about his stuff being sold and value, and he won't sign anything Breaking Bad, and he
yeah, but right, but
personalizes.
that's out in public. But I mean, but this is a charity event, and when he did the private signing with that company for charity, he did quotes, he did everything.
Well,
Um,
listen, if he does that, if this is a merch item of your choice, it's a steal.
yeah,
I'm expecting personalized. I'm expecting Peter Billingsley style on the auto, and a nice photo op. In which case, I think $500 is right where it should be.
as of last night, there were still seats available, but I checked this morning and I believe it's sold out. So it's almost a moot point to bring it up, but it didn't sell it right away.
Were you chewing on it a little bit?
And there's no, because it's not, it doesn't back up against the vacation at all, and that's not, it's too difficult.
Make your own vacation, brother. Come on.
Doesn't work like that. And then so let's jump into listeners' questions for our sake here. So we had a couple. We have a lot actually in the bank. And so I guess the plan here is while we're going through some of these shows leading up to the holidays, we're going to answer some listener questions, and some of them require longer responses, and some of them will be a little bit shorter. So I guess which one do you want to? You pick. You can start. I have answers for all of these. So
okay. Let's start with Ari's question. What's the deal with conventions using TPA firms not named JSA, PSA, or Beckett?
I mean, I have answers to this question. So number one, you have shows like Steel City or Monster Mania who use their own in-house. They're doing it because they want to make money on it. It's free money. It costs them literally nothing to do this, and it's free money in their pocket. JSA, PSA, Beckett, even if they get JSA, PSA, or Beckett, to rent a booth, that booth is a one-time fee. They can collect money infinitely on their own authentication. I can speak to Monster Mania. The first couple of shows where Monster Mania had their authentication, no one was buying them. Now that booth always has a line. So yeah, it's free money. When there are other booths, there are other companies, like I know CAS is making a lot of appearances at shows now. There's another one. The answer is they're paying a booth fee. So I do know that the TPAs, JSA and Beckett, they've been very, very squirrely lately about doing more public events, because a lot of them got in trouble doing those big public events where they were not really witnessing things being signed, but they were still stickering them, and so they definitely backed off on the number of public events. And so now these other companies are filling the void, and they're willing to pay the fee. I think that's really all it is. I don't think it's anything other than that. And they're also, I know that like in New York Comic Con, Beckett stopped doing. They stopped doing New York Comic Con as an authenticator, but I think that was because SWAU was paying New York Comic Con a licensing fee. And now that SWAU isn't doing that anymore, there's another company, but I think they're paying a licensing fee. So it's really all who's willing to pony up for these licensing fees. And I think, JSA and Beckett and PSA, they have a big enough name where they would hesitate to pay. They don't need to. They're still going to get submissions no matter what they do. Whereas sure. The other companies, they're willing to pay for market penetration.
Yeah, and part of me wants to say how it's the collector and the fan that sort of loses, whereas the companies and the conventions are all sort of jockeying to see who can make more money with whatever way they sort of take the TPA placement. But at the end of the day, for the average fan, I mean, they're getting stickers on crap they got signed themselves. It's all kind of a bit of a scam. For depending on what your role or whatever is in this hobby, or if you plan on selling stuff, it has real value and purpose. But for a lot of the people, it doesn't. It's going to sit on their shelf. It's going to get dusty. It's going to fall a half a dozen times a year. It's going to get all messed up. They'll never sell it for anything close to that they put into it, and they just dump an extra $10 on the sticker. It's just more money flushed down the toilet.
$12.
So it really $12. Well, it really doesn't matter at that point. But I mean, for people like you that you don't want a Monster Mania sticker on it. You will actually try to sell and flip and make money with something that you're doing. It sucks. I know when we've done deals at Monster Mania in back rooms, we don't get the Monster Mania stickers. And honestly, for some of the deals we did, thank God there was no JSA or whatever, because we would have spent even more money on deals that maybe weren't setting the world on fire regardless. But it's definitely a thing for people like us. For the fan, I guess it doesn't really matter quite as much.
Yeah, I mean, I at big events. The most recent TPA experience I had was big events. I did a drop off of some stuff for the JSA people. And while I was there, I noticed people getting their personalized 8x10 stickered by JSA, and I was just shaking my head, questioning that decision.
It looks a lot cooler with the sticker,
I guess. All right, so that was the first question. The second question I think is interesting. What's been your biggest never meet your heroes moment in collecting?
That is a good question. I'm sure I would have a ton of them if I was engaging in deep conversations where I was kind of had expectations for validation or just giving me some sort of a fresh insight on some question that this person has probably been asked 5,000 times already in their life. I don't really do that. But what I will say I kind of came out feeling not so great after was a book signing I did in New York City pre-COVID with William Daniels, Mr. Feeney from Boy Meets World. At the time, I really didn't know what to expect with old Mr. Feeney. And it was a long line in his, to his credit. But if I remember correctly, they kind of told us on the line that you would get your book signed, you would get you would get a photo op. I don't think they were promising extras, but I had one with me, which is it's not my standard move. But I don't think they promised extras, but they did promise photos. And basically, the line started moving, and I guess after maybe 15 or 20 of the people that were in front of me got through, he had enough of photos, and I was getting mad at his, the store, whatever his person was. He always travels with his wife. He was just angry and surly and didn't want to be bothered with any of it. And I get he's an old man, but guess what? It's like 7-8 years later. He's still alive. So, I mean, it's not like he was on death's door. He signed up for a book signing and should have known they were advertising photos. I ended up just snapping in front of him, and I got him looking. He looks like he wants to murder me, but to be fair, that's kind of his standard look in all photos. But I really didn't come out of that event feeling super great. He wasn't my hero, and I get the never meet your heroes was in quotation, but I just want to be clear for my own transparency. But I definitely didn't. That was not the moment I kind of envisioned with meeting Mr. Feeney. What's yours?
So I remember it very specifically. This was back in the mid 2000s. I used to go to the Bamboozle Fest, which was in New Jersey. There was this music festival, and I always buy the VIP, and I would always do the meet and greets for the bands and stuff. And, bands, and we've talked about bands. Bands are pretty cool generally, much cooler than other, celebrity types, I guess you'd say. I've really only had amazing experiences with most bands. And I remember there was a there was a signing with Third Eye Blind that I really, really wanted to go to. Third Eye Blind they had taken a break. They were headlining Bamboozle. It was a nostalgia act from the '90s, obviously. And so anyway, I am first in line. I was very into. I wanted to go home. I wanted to whatever. I was first in line for this Third Eye Blind signing, and it was at their merch tent, their merch table thing. And I remember what I really wanted was the photo. I didn't want because I wasn't gonna. It was a music festival. I wasn't carrying around good items to be signed.
Yeah.
You couldn't. You get destroyed. It's the way I used to go to shows back then. So I wanted the photo with Third Eye Blind and other bands, big bands, headliner bands at these events. I was able to get the photos with relatively easily. You just ask the manager. You say, I don't really want to. You don't need to say anything. If you can just snap the picture, that would be great. And they came in and were just completely just jerks and just blew me off. And I was first in line.
How'd they blow you off? What'd they do?
They pretended like I wasn't asking. They didn't respond.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I was like, damn. And I was kind of taken aback by it. Because again, the bands are usually nice. At the kind of bands at a festival like this were really nice. They were doing a meet and greet. I had assumed things would go well, and I wound up getting nothing. So that sucked. And then what they did, they started just signing for the people behind me, and I was just kind of like, pushed off to the side. So that's something I will never really forget. It definitely sucked. I'm trying to think of other circumstances. Look, he was not a hero of mine, and certainly this kind of behavior was not unexpected. But if you were a chiller when Corey Haim was there, you got to see some kind of outrageous behavior. You weren't there, right?
No, I wish.
So yeah, Corey Haim was, intoxicated for most of the weekend. Just couldn't. He was totally incoherent. My friend Ted actually has a great photo up with Corey Haim, where Corey Haim looks like he's like just like a corpse walking. Just shocking how bad he looked. And so that was certainly an uncomfortable one to be around. And then we did a whole episode on Olivia Hussey, but I would be remiss if I didn't bring up Olivia Hussey. And it's a weird thing because it happens so infrequently. But when someone refuses to switch markers for no good reason other than that they want to have control in that moment, and they know that you want it, and so that's why they're refusing. That's all it was. Is a hard thing to stomach. So, and I know people have stories about other, I know that a lot of professional athletes are kind of like that. They're difficult, but those are really the ones that I have that are memorable at all.
Yeah, I guess one more I'll throw out there, and he obviously owed us nothing in any real sense of the word, but Sean William Scott, when we were like basically
I forgot about
two on one. He was coming out of a morning show. This was not his this was not his residence. This was not a hotel. This was a morning show appearance, which I think is about on par with like an arena for WWE by the weirdos that sort of rank stalking. And he like ignored us, ran. It was weird. And like, granted, you did have that folding chair, so maybe it makes
that wasn't the same day.
Oh, it was a different day. You're correct. It wasn't a folding chair. But yeah, that was a real like deflating thing because I always thought I heard he was kind of nice, and I know, and that spot was so low key. I'm like, oh, we'll definitely get him. And not only did we not get him, he acted like a real ass. But
no, he's a complete dickhead, is what he was.
Yeah.
And it was shocking, actually.
Honestly, also that you're only my first. The time we met Gary Oldman, from his reputation, it wasn't all that crowded of a spot. I was a little disappointed with his overall demeanor.
He was very grumpy.
Yeah.
But I guess that's it for that one. And then finally, from Sean, what's your Mount Rushmore of talent that you've met at any convention?
You go first. I think I'm trying to take this like I'm using the word convention hyper literally. I'm not doing meet and greets of like concerts or anything. A convention that you paid an admission fee on top of, the actual photo op. So, If you want, you could take it first.
So Mount Rushmore con guests. Oh man, I would have to put Robert Englund on for a variety of reasons: fan friendliness, importance to my own personal pop culture sensibilities. When I met Robert Englund years and years and years and years and years ago, back when I first started doing cons, he was a delight. He's hilarious. It was he makes sure he gives you an incredibly positive experience. It was great, truly great. So that's one. I think I'm gonna put on my Mount Rushmore. I'm gonna also put Casper Van Dien for similar reasons. A tremendous fan experience. I remember the first time he did Monster Mania. Me and my friend Ted were there, and I was marking out huge. I loved Starship Troopers, and so he had us doing whole sequences of dialogue with him, just doing them. We were going back and forth doing dialogue at the table, and just overall an extraordinarily positive experience. Someone who is definitely who brings a great attitude to cons, who makes sure that fans are they're seen as fans of the material, not just not just dollar signs. He makes sure that everyone who comes across the table gets a fantastic experience. Another one who's a true Mount Rushmore talent at any con was Hulk Hogan. Again, made sure that every single fan got a meaningful, positive, outstanding experience. I met Hulk at 3 different cons and got 3 different positive experiences because he made sure of it. That was something that every single fan got. And then finally, this is the fourth Mount Rushmore guest. I hope this is the interpretation of Mount Rushmore that he wanted. I don't know. Is Matt Lillard, who makes sure that every single person at every single con gets an outstanding experience. He does not rest until every person has an outstanding experience. And I really admire that's how he thinks about people, and that's how he treats them, is by giving everyone an incredible experience.
Can't argue with that. I will I'll be taking my interpretation of it will be a little different. I'm going to throw in some of the names that I think are just the absolute most massive that I got at cons. And then I'm going to go a little more personal and experience based perhaps on the back end. So my number 1 is your all-time favorite actor, Mr. Sylvester Stallone from New York Comic Con back in whatever the hell that was, 2010-ish, maybe around there. Whether you like him or not, he has definitely become an icon as of today's definition of his contributions to cinema and pop culture. He hasn't done very many of these types of events, and I don't think my collection would have been quite as well-rounded for the eventual judgment of my combos in the up at the pearly gates with the combo gods. So I think Sly will definitely get me into heaven a lot quicker. So I needed Sly. Not for my second head on Mount Rushmore. I'm not. This was probably not one of the greater interactions as far as how fun they seem to be at the event or how much they were enjoying it. But Kevin Costner, he is a name I never ever thought would be at a con, and I was extremely happy to have that opportunity to spend well more than any normal person would spend on the photo op. So beyond those 2 that are just really just big names I was excited to meet, the third head, which is a little bit of a weird transition from the first 2, but I am going Bobby the Brain Heenan, who I absolutely adored as a kid and still as an adult. And I definitely feel as though all of us, but me especially at this time when I met him, I was slightly robbed because at this point he could barely form sentences with his jaw and all his health maladies with the cancer in the mouth and the different things he was dealing with. You could barely understand him, but he would struggle and try his damnedest to make a joke and make you laugh. And I miss Sherry by a little bit. I miss different names like that. And I wish I started sooner. But Bobby Heenan would have really been like a blow if I hadn't gotten him. So I am forever thankful that I got Bobby Heenan. Luckily, Marty was like the Heenan whisperer at that point, and he got him out, and no one else was. So that is the third head, and it's kind of hard to like separate sometimes when you're doing like a Mount Rushmore, because like if you focus on one meet, like you met them a second time or eighth time, it's like, well, who needed that one? You could have done without it. But collectively, I'm going to say the immortal Hulk Hogan for similar reasons to Bobby Heenan. If I had never gotten Hulk Hogan, I mean, realistically, life would have gone on, but that would have really sucked. How would I have a wrestling collection at this point? What I grew up loving, I needed Hulk Hogan, and he always gave a great experience. Even the last one where he was definitely in a lot of pain, and he never let you see it. He never seemed smaller. He honestly never seemed older. He always had that ability to sort of turn the lights on. He seemed like he appeared and carried himself like he did 40 years ago. He kind of made you feel the way you felt that many years ago watching him on TV. It was always like a very, very powerful experience meeting the Hulkster. And I don't know entirely if that was just him and his charms, or it was just the fact that he was such a formative and important figure in my life. I don't know, chicken or the egg, I don't really know what caused all those great feelings with meeting him. But regardless, it was definitely on my Mount Rushmore.
So that just about does it for that. So what's coming up for us again in the near future?
Well, for you, absolutely nothing.
True. For me, nothing.
For me, I will be meeting the, as of now, the third baseman, sort of, for the New York Mets, Brett Beatty. Next week, Coaches Collectibles, Mulcahy's. I will be there. About a week or so after that, exactly a week after that, I will be invading the K&S Sportatorium for one of my all-time favorite tag teams, and I never run out of stuff for them to begin with, but now with all the new stuff dropping, I absolutely got more. Demolition, Bill and Barry, they will be there. I will be there. It has to happen. After that, I will be doing DMC for the third time. I love Run DMC. I will always find items for DMC. Not a question. If he's local on Long Island, I will be there. And last but not least, I will be attending. I wasn't sure if I'd be attending, but it looks like I will be attending K&S Con. I have a couple items for Duggan. I will socialize and network and see all the people that I know at the show, and I will be there solo, obviously, much like all of this stuff. You would probably rather die than walk around K&S Con.
Yeah, no, definitely would rather die. Yeah, I just don't need any of these guys anymore. That's really all there is to it. I got them years ago when Ken had them around, and it was the first time, and Terrence and stuff. I just don't need these wrestlers, and certainly don't need the new crop of releases that this other crew that they're bringing around these days. I just don't need any of these people. So I have no interest. I would like to want to go. I do find the whole concept enjoyable, but I just don't know who they could bring out.
You need Roadblock. As a WCW fan, come on, you need Roadblock.
What? No, I don't. He never did anything good at all.
I don't even know if I'm going to get him. I might. I'll see how I feel. But I'm mainly going.
The one name that they could bring out that would interest me is Blitzkrieg. And let me tell you, I never revealed this publicly. I tried to get Blitzkrieg myself. The guy doesn't answer DMs, so what we're supposed to do. I even tracked down Blitzkrieg's family members. I really was trying to get that thing done a couple years ago, and it was just it's not happening. So that's you remember go ahead. Sorry.
We reached out for Ice Train from WCW before he died. I mean, hopefully before he died, and his fee was like, what the hell did he want? It was like $1,000 plus travel or something ridiculous, which I'll put out there now since he's dead. I mean, I don't think I'm messing up his game at this point, but it was ridiculous. He was, it would have been a savage beating. So
yeah, and there are a couple of people who I reached out to over the years who they just don't even open the DMs, and it's Blitzkrieg was definitely the one that I think would have been cool, but it's not going to happen unless he opens that 4-year-old DM or 3-year-old DM out of the blue and wants to do it. But
much like your trick or treat actor.
I know that, and that's a whole other thing. Yeah, that Blitzkrieg. I tracked down his son, I think, and DM'd his son, who also didn't open the message. So whatever.
Family trait, I guess.
I mean, he doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to do it. That's clearly what the issue is. But that doesn't mean you have to be happy about it.
No.
Alas. All right. I think we're done.
We're done. We got I think we touched it all today.
All right, looks good. And then I think for next week we're going to announce kind of the process for what the year-end awards are going to look like on the marked out autograph collecting community.
And if you were never around for the old year-end awards, let me just tell you what it's all about. This is the one time a year where grown men whine and complain and cry if their stuff is not considered for every single category.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always funny. Fun. Every year I get pissed off by the whining, and I vow to never do it again. And honestly, the last couple, I don't think we have, because the forum was kind of dead. Sorry, Greg 2600 in class. But now that we have a Facebook group that's more active than Marked Out's ever been, I think it's time that we sort of celebrate all the accomplishments and all the money we have all spent collectively. And next week we will have a announced outline of exactly what that's going to look like.
Should be fun.
It always is.
It always is. And it's always a spectacle, if nothing else, which is really what most of this stuff is.
Yeah.
All right. So for markedout.com, Marked Out Collectibles, and Marked Out Radio, I'm Sean.
And I'm Dana.
And we will see you next.